Welcome to Fall, Rise, Give, a space where we invite you to dig into the real cause of your suffering, looking at opportunities for growth with a change in your beliefs, thoughts, and actions so you can be your true self and be inspired. Join us as we explore life's ups and downs and navigate the twists and turns, sharing stories of resilience, hope, and the transformative power of giving back. Whether you're looking for a change, in recovery, or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your go-to for candid conversations, raw emotions, and a whole lot of heart. Tune in and discover how to fall, rise, and give back on life's extraordinary journey. Fall, Rise, Give, turn struggles into opportunities by being your true self and help others. How you doing? I'm Bartender Bob. That is my good bud, Kumar. Kumar, did you have a good week?
I did. I had a really good week. The weather was nice here in Seattle. It rained every day. But yeah, it was a good week, and one more week to go, then I can officially kind of take it easy for work rest of the year.
Well, that's awesome. I always love to take it easy for the rest of the year, but not all of us have the joy of doing that. So our guest this week, pretty excited about this. Shawn Livingston was in a documentary called 100 Miles to Redemption. Is the host of the podcast I Am Redemption, and is in recovery. I watched your movie, Shawn, and I got to say, I'm pretty impressed with how you turned out now after seeing the stuff that you were dealing with when you were younger. Let's just start. Let's just stay that to begin with, and then we'll go from there.
Right. I appreciate it. There's definitely been people that have come up and they start hearing my story or whatever, and they're like, I could never see any of that, you doing any of that stuff. And so I guess that's the biggest compliment somebody could give me. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's start off with the question: who is Shawn Livingston?
Ooh, Shawn Livingston is definitely somebody who had to take the hard road in life to figure out what was what. But looking back, I know that I've had to go through every single thing that I've been through to be who I am today, and I wouldn't change that for anything. And I've been blessed with the unique opportunity to be able to use my experience to help other people. And so that I think in a nutshell is who I am.
Watching your video, watching your documentary, I looked at I basically was focused on your sister, okay? And the troubles that she had with looking at you as her older sibling and looking up to you, and then all of a sudden not looking up to you. Okay, I threw that out there as that part, but I want you to explain to our listeners why your sister had those feelings, because from this point to where she looked up to her big brother to this point where she thought her big brother was a POS, what led to that?
I mean, it was my absence. A lot of the time I was gone with the military, it wasn't all bad, but the small time she would see me, I'd be struggling. And so once I was kind of come back from the military and I'm struggling addiction wise, she would randomly see me and she knew I wasn't doing well, or my mother would make a surprise visit to come see me and come back and she knew I wasn't doing well. But really all the torment that I was causing back home while I wasn't there, because my mom is spending endless nights not sleeping, afraid to answer the phone, that just took its wear and tear on my sister. And then I wasn't there for a lot of the big milestones in her life. I wasn't there for when she went to prom or graduated or first boyfriend, any of these really things. I was off on my own journey, unfortunately. So a big part of my struggle when I was getting sober and kind of getting my life back on track that I wasn't quite understanding was, why was my sister the hardest one to get back into my life? I talk about in the film how it's internal to me that I need, I'm here to protect her. That's my baby sister. And so when I can't do that and I can't be around her, like I need to know why. And so it took the film and me seeing the film and seeing firsthand those words kind of come out of her mouth to truly understand what I had ever done for her. And then it made perfect sense, just because I had never physically harmed her or, stolen from her or hurt her in any way physically. I didn't understand the damage I had done on the other side.
Let's talk a little bit about your fall, because you mentioned when you got out of the military, you were addicted to drugs. Were you addicted to drugs, or were you a drug user prior to going into the military?
So I was in two branches of service. So I'd say originally going into the Air Force, my first branch of service, I was not, I was a partier, a drug user. By the time I had gotten into the Army, on my second branch of service, I would say I was an addict. I had pulled it together and got clean for a long enough time. It's kind of a funny story how that all happened, but I got clean enough to be able to get back into the military. And then once I got injured when I was in the Army. We were training to go to Iraq, and so unfortunately, their course of action at that time was to give me high doses of painkillers, and that was just dumping fuel on the fire.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a funny story. We got time. You might as well share it.
So I had bounced around. I'd gotten out of the Air Force. I'd bounced around for a couple years, and everywhere I went, you know what I mean, I'd burn it down in a matter of no time. And so I ended up in Miami, Florida. I discovered heroin down there. And so it was about a year straight where I was just, off and running. And so it gets to the point where I have nowhere else to go. I have nothing else to do. And so it was the one time I called home and asked for help from my mom. I told them I needed help. I needed to get into treatment. And so I ended up finding a place in the phone book, and I went to a detox in Tampa. And I was keeping in touch with my mom, and I get to detox, and I get to Tampa, and she tells me on the phone, all right, me and your grandmother, we're going to pull some money together. We're going to send you to a good place, wherever you want to go to treatment. So do your research and let us know where it is you want to go. And so I was like, okay. I get off the phone. I'm kicking heroin. I'm not doing any type of research. And so all I know is everybody in this detox is saying they're going to a place in Tampa. Or not in Tampa, I'm sorry, in Louisiana. And so I'm like, all right, cool, I'll go there. And so I get shipped off down to Louisiana. I show up. It's beautiful land, all these plantation homes. It was a men and women facility. And so I'm in there, and all I notice is the first couple of days, every room I walk into, there's a picture of this guy on the wall, and I can't figure out who the guy is on the wall. And so like by day 3, I remember leaning over and asking one of the clients, I was like, hey, who's that dude up on the wall there? And they're like, oh, that's L. Ron Hubbard. And I was like, who? And he's like, oh, that's the founder of Scientology. And I was like, what's Scientology? And so he takes me up in his room, and this is back in the day when there's still portable DVD players going around. And so he pulls out the box set of South Park and shows me the South Park episode of what Scientology is. And my jaw hits the floor, and I'm like, where am I? And so I did 4.5 months in Scientology rehab, and I did not stay sober as soon as I got out, but it got me back to at least the point where I could get back into the military.
And so what made you decide to go into the military a second time?
I knew I needed that structure back. I operate very well in structure. It's when I didn't have that structure at that time in my life where the problems persisted. And so really it was my only option. I didn't really know another. I remember calling home and bouncing the idea off my family that I was going to stay at the Scientology rehab and was thinking about working there. And my mom was like, get your ass home now. So.
Right. So you said you like structure. That's probably what led you into to the running, to being an ultra marathoner.
Maybe it got me back in touch with something I didn't know I quite needed, because, I was never a runner growing up. If I was running without a basketball or a football or a baseball in my hand, I was in trouble for something. It was punishment. And so I never could have dreamt that I could have gotten into running or what it would have done for me. When I ended up in treatment my last time, I ended up here in Austin, and I had 8 months of sobriety time up under my belt. I had been in the VA for a while, getting some care. And so I ended up in this treatment center, and I remember taking a look in the mirror one day, and I hated who I saw. It didn't matter how much sobriety time I had. I hated who I saw in the mirror. I had a gut out to here. I felt like crap. I looked like crap. And so I just remember hearing about this little running group that was starting downtown. And so I ended up getting special permission to go to it. And I was just going to try to lose a little bit of weight. And so I showed up the first morning. It was 5 a.m. I showed up. My ego was still huge. I'm like, there was like 30 men or women there. I was like, they don't got nothing for me. I'll be first at this. I was completely delusional. I was dead last in a 2-mile run that day. My lungs were on absolute fire. I was still smoking a pack of Newports a day. But when I got done with that run, I just remember feeling this sense of accomplishment that it had been as long as I could remember before I had felt that. And so I was like, man, I'm just going to keep coming back. And before I knew it, 2 miles turned into 3 miles, 3 miles turned into 4. And then after that, I fell in with the right people. And here we are.
No, that's awesome. Running kind of gives you a high on life. I think you started to feel that high. Is that right?
100%. And all I know is, I go back to when I was getting out of the military, and, they diagnosed me with PTSD, depression, anxiety disorder, panic disorder, agoraphobia, sleep disorder, nightmares. Like, I can keep going. And they just kind of handed me 15 bottles of pills. And at the end of the day, that's what got me in trouble in the first place. And so I tried addressing my mental health. I tried taking the medication, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the answer for me. It didn't keep me sober. It didn't keep me happy. But I start this running thing, and a lot of these things that I was suffering from just kind of started melting away. They didn't go away, but they got a whole lot more manageable. And so it upsets me a little bit to think about going back to when I originally get these diagnoses and get these medications. At no time did any doctor ever ask me, like, hey, are you exercising? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? Are you drinking water? All these fundamental things, again, of being a good, healthy human being. And we didn't even talk about it. So that's why, man, that's, even now I've been going through some stuff here lately, and it's like getting back to the things that got me here in the first place. Let's get back to the running, get back around the community, get back to the things that I know I need.
In your documentary, 100 Miles to Redemption, while watching it, you made it to like mile marker 63, right? And then you're like, the look on your face was you wanted to quit, and then you're looking for your running partner that you were running with, and you couldn't find the dude. And you're like, he's a big dude. What gave you the determination to push forward after that? You made it 63 miles, which is 62 and a half miles further than I've ever ran in my life,
Right. Man, I think it was the perfect storm of a bunch of different things. And so that the gentleman you're talking about, in the movie, we call him Detroit. That dude just ended up being an angel on my shoulder and was there right when I needed him to be, right when I was ready to give up. But I explain it kind of in the film. For that race, for me, it was the only way I can describe it is kind of physical, mental, spiritual. And so that first third of the race, or that first half of the race, it's all physical. It's just physical exertion. It's what I've been training for. Well, your body only takes you so far. And then all of a sudden that starts to kind of go on you. And then after that, it's just kind of mental toughness. And so I got the physical part. Now I'm on the mental part. And that was where you saw me. That was my mental part right there, giving up. And, my back, I have 2 herniated discs pinching my sciatic nerve. It's bone to bone. And so there's everything in my brain and my body is telling me to quit each step. Another one of the big things that I'm thinking about, though, is my grandmother had texted me that morning. And you've seen the film, you know what happens at the end, but my family I didn't know if they were paying attention. I didn't know if they knew that I was running this race. I just knew my grandma did. And so she said that, when you hit that place where you want to quit and it's lonely and you're at night, just remember I'll be at home following along on my iPad. And I mean, it even gets me choked up right now thinking about that. But it's thinking about things like that. And then, man, there's something looking out for me greater than myself, because, Detroit came. He understood and realized that I was super calorie deficient at that point. I was slurring my words. And so you saw the difference from that aid station to the next aid station when I came through, and then I'm all like back alive. And so it was just that perfect storm.
So did you ever find out who Detroit was?
We keep in email contact, not a lot, but about once a year we kind of touch base and check on each other.
Right. Hey, that's cool though to have that person, there as you said, the angel on your shoulder, which is very cool. Yeah. What made you decide to take your story and put it onto a film?
There wasn't anything I had ever planned or thought would happen. I ended up doing an interview for Austin Marathon. That interview came out. Lance Armstrong had saw it and read it, invited me to come on his podcast, and then I went on his podcast. And the next thing I know, I was getting a phone call from a director. I think he was my story kind of hit home with him, with some stuff he was going through in his life with some family members, and so we just started talking more. He asked me if I would ever consider being part of something large scale like that. And I mean, at first I thought he was prank calling me. I thought it was one of my buddies messing with me.
Right.
People like me don't get phone calls like that. And so
right.
He said, I just happened to be training for the 100-mile race. And I was like, man, if you think my story can help anybody, then, let's do it. And, man, it came time to start talking about, pay and all that stuff. And I told him at the end of the day, when the film was done, what that film did for me and what it did for my family is all the payment I'll ever need. As long as I have the ability to be able to go speak with it and share my story and all that, I'm all for it. But I don't want payment or anything like that. And so, that is what showed me and got me to understand that, like, all this stuff that I've been through, all this pain, I didn't know a world existed where I could ever use it to help people. And once I did, it actually gave it purpose. And so that was, I don't know, that's right there what taught me in life, what I went through it all for and why I'm here now.
You've seen the name of our podcast, Fall, Rise, and Give. And looks like you fell pretty hard, like a lot of us do. And then you rose. And then the biggest thing that I love, and ending the word give,
Yep.
as soon as you start giving yourself your true essence, which is your gift that you got from the struggles and the pain, people listen to you. People actually care that, hey, essentially, this guy went through the same pain that I'm going through, or went through pain much worse than I did, and I can accomplish X, Y, Z. And so I think that's the greatest gift that we talk about. And this is the essence of our podcast and kind of your story. You're giving back, and that giving back is what connected us to the universe and the energies in the world, whatever vibrations you want to call it, or higher power or God. But the coolest thing is that is what ultimately gives you joy. And that's why Bob and I continue to do what we're doing every single day. So I love that part of the story. I love that that's what motivates you. And that's the biggest payment that we could all ask for.
Yep. Hands down.
Shawn, what's been your desire to keep you clean then after the, because watching the documentary and seeing the issues that you had from when you were younger to getting clean and back and in jail and out of jail and, and things like that. And then all of a sudden, you started running and you stayed clean. How has it been for you to stay clean now that you're, now that you are an ultimate, is it an ultimate runner, or when you're, when you're doing these
ultra runner?
Yeah. So, I mean, has it been hard for you to stay sober since you're doing this?
As far as sobriety, like, I would be lying to you if I said it's been a big struggle. I just got very lucky and I found something that lit a fire up under me. I found something that became far more important to me than getting high ever could. If once I had identified running, and then, eventually it would evolve into the gym and training people and all these other things, like, that fed a hole in me way deeper than any drug or alcohol ever did. And so that's kind of where I get my fix now. If it's not helping me be a better runner, if it's not helping me be better in the gym, I don't got time for it. And it that just kind of goes across life. It goes for the people I keep around me, everything like that. Like, I position myself and put some things in my life now where it's just, it's not an option anymore.
Right. Well, Kumar and I have talked about that in the past, where you basically are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yep.
And you said you're positioning yourself around some people. So what does your tribe of 5 look like?
People that are far smarter and far better than me at everything under the sun, pretty much. But that's the most important thing, that when I talk with people, that was the most important part for me. My MO always was hang around the funny guys. It didn't matter if I was in prison, at school, at work, in the military, you name it, in treatment, I hang around the funny guys. And so I had to eventually kind of take a look around and realize that was not serving me. I used to think I was this big leader in life, but all I know is every time I hung around people that did dope, I did dope. And so, once I discovered running, it kind of transformed the entire experience I had in treatment. It transformed my whole mindset as far as being a person, being a man. I used to run around in the streets and think I was a really big, tough guy. I stood in front of a judge and he told me he didn't see any reason to sentence me to under 20 years. The tough guy shit for me went right out the window. And so I really started identifying people in life that have what I want in life. And it doesn't even mean financially. I'm just saying, like, they're honest. Their family talks to them. They have friends. People can count on them. And I just started surrounding myself around people like that. And then, in all honesty, like, I identified people online. I followed people on social media who motivated me. In all honesty, I got to the point where I kind of took a look around and it was like, okay, now I need to find new people to be looking up to, because I kind of find myself amongst that same crowd. And so it's just continuing to hang around bigger and better people that are bigger and better at me than things, and hopefully some of it rubs off.
Shawn, you're living in one of the party centrals of the, I lived in La Crosse, Wisconsin for many years, which has got the most bars per capita, at least it used to. And I've been to some other party towns. About a couple of weeks ago, my partner and I were in Austin, and your 6th Street there is off the chains, man. It's crazy. Is it hard to stay sober when you've got that party atmosphere right down the street from where you live?
It's kind of funny. I get up at 2 a.m. So that morning time is the most important, like my favorite time of the day. I'm at the gym by 4:30, so that means I'm in bed by 6:30. On the random occasion like this weekend for the fight that I stay up to like watch something that's past my bedtime at 6:30, I'm wrecked for like a week. So the nightlife or anything has nothing to offer me. I can't do it.
Same
Okay.
here. Yeah, I love it. I usually go to bed by 8:30, possibly 9 at the latest, and I get up at 4:35. There's a great book out there called The 5 a.m. Club. Have you heard about that book?
Yeah. Yep.
But you get up at 2. What do
Yeah.
you do between 2 and 4? If you don't mind me asking.
That's when I'm like scheduling all my posts for social media, replying to emails, to people who I know that I work with closely. I'm firing off texts because I know they'll get them. And then that's when I'm getting my food ready for the day, getting my stuff ready, like kind of getting my mindset towards the gym. Play with my dog a little bit. It eats up that time pretty quick.
Do you follow a program at all as far as being sober or anything like that? I know that I talk about the attitude adjustment program. We're obviously not affiliated with AA or anything like that, but we do support it. Do you follow a program like that for sobriety?
At the end of the day, it's using my experience to help others. That's it. I work in the treatment industry. I've worked the 12 steps, so I'm in that world. I'd be lying to you if I said I was at meetings all the time and stuff like that. I'll go to give people chips sometimes or just pop into a meeting. But at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, everybody's usually been to a meeting where there's that guy in there where he knows the big book front to back. He's got 30 sponsees. Every time he talks, it's like he's spitting fire. Nobody can follow him. And like, that's awesome. We need people like that out in the world. That's just not me. And so at the end of the day, what that dude's doing is using his experience to help others. I'm doing the exact same thing, just kind of in a different way. And so when I'm training people in the gym, I work with people only in recovery. And so I have them and I'm introducing them into an avenue to channel all that energy we used to put into getting high and putting it into something healthy. And then we're talking recovery as we're doing it. And so just because I'm not an AA sponsor or anything like that, at the end of the day, we're doing the same thing. And so anything that anybody can find that helps them, I don't care what it is, do it.
I want to ask a question it's going to sound like a weird question, but obviously with your recovery, you've been able to help yourself and to become a better person, to become the you that you are. But while I keep going back to your sister, honestly, in the documentary, and to see, was your sobriety, has gaining the love back from your sister been one of the bigger things that you got out of sobriety?
Yeah, getting the relationship back with my sister, absolutely. Just having that family, to actually have a family now, and for the dynamic to be the way it should. She messages me in the morning when she's on the way to the gym, and she's like talking shit that it's leg day or something. Like, we have that rapport now.
Right.
It's what it is, and then but I think the overall, the biggest blessing is for them. And so just to give you a quick story, the very first thing they ever filmed, obviously, is the trailer. It was the sizzle reel. The film wasn't even done. And so documentaries, they don't make a whole lot of money or anything like that. And so they had brought the trailer back, and they had an event to kind of get some excitement going around the project. And so they invited 200 Austin runners to come out and watch the trailer. And so we go, and my story was kind of out there a little bit, but most of these people knew me as an ultra runner running crazy races. They didn't know all my stuff. And so they all pack into this place. There's 200 people crammed in, lights go out, trailer goes up. And within 3 minutes now, they've heard all of my stuff. 4-time felon, kicked out of the military, heroin addict, homeless, family didn't speak to him, all of it. And then all of a sudden the lights come back on. And the only way I could describe it was like mom pushed me out of the first day of school, out the front door naked, and just shut the door on me. So it's like I'm standing there like, oh my God. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, all these people, what are they going to think of me? They're going to judge me. They're going to think less of me, blah, blah, blah. And I had damn near every single person in that room converge on me that night and start telling me about everything in their life, every person that was struggling, that they had related to them, that was even outside of addiction, mental health, sexual trauma, suicide, like all these different things. And so it taught me a very valuable lesson that, like, all it took was me being able and willing to open up a little bit and look what it was been able to do for people. And so I kind of had a feeling at that point, like I knew that my family could have the same benefit and it could actually give that same value to my sister and my mother and my stepfather, to show that we didn't go through it for nothing, that it could be used to help people. And so that right there, I think, is the biggest thing that I got out of it, to be able to share that with them and say, hey, look, like, the things that at one time in my life I was the most ashamed of are the things that I'm now, most proud to stand in front of hundreds of people and talk about.
Right, that's awesome. So is that why you have the title of your podcast, I Am Redemption?
The word redemption just is always, it's just a hard hitting word to me. I've always loved the word, even before Andrew picked it as the thing to the name of the documentary. And I wasn't even thinking about that then, but I remember the people that I work with the podcast, where we were sitting down and going over logo ideas and name ideas and all that. And they had come up with, I believe it was like Rise Above or something like that. And I had just made the offhanded comment. I was like, that sounds like every generic treatment center that I've ever worked with. Like, and I think the logo was like a mountain with like a bird flying. And I was like, it's just like everybody's thing. And I was like, how about I Am Redemption? And not even saying that I am redemption, it's anybody. My whole goal is to get people to understand, like, I don't have a recovery podcast. I have an adversity podcast. People from all different walks of life that have been through adversity, that come out on the other side, and they have the ability to share their story and use that to help people. And so, it's not for me, it's anybody, and understanding everybody has their own life experience. And if you're lucky enough to make it through, you can use that to help people and give it all meaning.
Oh, absolutely. So I
Love
have
it.
I have one final question. Then Kumar, I'll let you wrap up the podcast. But Shawn, how do you want to be known?
How do I want to be known?
Yeah.
I think just as somebody out here that's just real and willing to be vulnerable, willing to be open, willing to show both sides of the coin. I know, as I started doing podcasting or doing social media stuff, there's a lot of inspirational people out here. I just don't feel a lot of people show both sides of the coin. And so you can't be the most biggest badass every day. You can't be hardcore every day. You have bad days too. And so somebody can be real enough to show both sides of the coin. So I think that's it right there. And just someone who is just willing to open up and share about myself in the efforts to help other people.
I was thinking about a little story of redemption. I'm a huge football fan, especially college football.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to go to the Sugar Bowl last year, where the Washington Huskies played University of Texas. And the Texas coach, Sarkisian, he was the coach for the Huskies like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Then he got a great job at USC and became a total drunk.
Yep.
And went through a divorce and all sorts of stuff, and basically got fired, and for all the craziness that he did. And then he ended up getting an assistant job at Alabama under Coach Saban. And then he built himself up, and now he's ranked like number 2 in the country, or top 5 team in the country. And so I always said there's always a redemption story that I love. I love people going out there and doing their thing and, bouncing back and falling. And I feel like I have a pretty interesting story as well, in that sense that I've lost everything financially and built myself up again and all of that. That's craziness. But I think the redemption word is really powerful. I love the fact that you have it as I am redemption. And I think what you said a couple of seconds ago was, it's not about you. It's about everyone else can take that on, saying, I am redemption. You are redemption. And that's the greatest gift that I think we can share with others. Any other parting thoughts? Anything, top 3 things that people need to do or should do in their life, or from a standpoint of, just living and being the best that they can be? Any other advice like that?
The biggest things I always talk about with people is just, number one, the importance of the people you choose to allow to be around you, because at the end of the day, it's a choice. You're a football fan. I always use the football analogy with people. The number one goal of every NFL team every year is to win the Super Bowl. And so you as a person, you really should try to identify what's your Super Bowl. And so in my time in life, when I was in treatment, like my number one, the 2 most important things in my life were, is this going to help me stay sober, and is this going to help me stay out of prison? And if it didn't align with one of those 2 things, I did not do it. And I literally asked that for everything. There was not a decision I made I didn't ask myself that. So that went for the people I choose to surround myself with. We all know what it's like when you let one bad person up in the locker room, a cancer in the locker room, it all goes to, it goes to hell. So you better be sure any team you assemble around you is the best team possible, helping you work towards that goal. And so If it was somebody that wasn't going to help me stay sober, you're not going to help me stay out of prison. I don't have time for you. I don't care how much you make me laugh. That's my biggest thing. And then I think the only other thing is, I do interventions and I work with people in the gym and just people in recovery in general. And one of the questions I'll pose to them is like, look, tomorrow morning you could wake up and you could be right sitting in the same shit that you are today. Or you could wake up tomorrow and realize that you took the first step to actually changing your life. Like, the decision's yours. At the end of the day, my head's going to hit the pillow the same way every night. So it's on you to make the decision. And so, if somebody that wants to get healthy, somebody that wants to get sober, somebody wants to start going to the gym, like, only you have to do it. You have to make that decision to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall, Rise, Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also, consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall, Rise, Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.